Yes, thank you for giving me the floor. I had to rack my brain for my top question. I don't want to ask all my questions in one space. I want to stagger them out. So this one I'm curious about. It has to do with VC raising, and maybe it's two parts. First of all, where will the team be at with transparency in an active round? It seems like that's potentially difficult. I think I'm imagining it involves VCs to be fine with that as well. And the exciting question I have really is what what makes a VC appealing to Voy? I'm imagining it kind of goes past just fundraising. It also comes down a lot to their connections, something I think Arrington is a great example of, where they're well connected, and that brings a lot of additional value just over the financials they can bring in. So maybe one is what can we expect for transparency around VC raises, and the other is what is an ideal VC profile?
Yeah.
So I'll give
Can I take
quick
it?
my thoughts. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Let me go. I'll be real quick, and I'll pass it to Gov. So first off, as far as transparency, you're right. It is difficult, just because when you're dealing with the VCs, there's rules and regulations and everything that's go into place around that, and the promise is being as transparent as possible. But that being said, one of the things that I urge everybody to do is, instead of going like small and then big, go big and small when you're looking at the overall picture. Because what you can do then is that if you look at the actual investments and actually like VC investment, if you look at most other chains, you can look at the actual total market cap, and then you can look at like how much is actually earmarked for individual like investors, and how much when investors, how much everything that's sort at a high level. And then you can look at Voy, and what the foundation has actually released with Voy already is that 75% of the entire market cap is earmarked for ecosystem, community, all of that stuff. And then at max, 25% is earmarked for like core team investors, like other. So even if you can't get granular, you can actually look at it as a bigger picture and say, okay, this is actually a better solution than anywhere else already when you look at it that big picture. So the goal is to actually be as transparent as possible, and we'll continue to do so. And as things come out, and we'll be as transparent as we can. But at the same time, you can also just look at the information as released and feel comfortable with the knowledge that is out there, that it is actually in a better situation, and it is actually going towards what the missions and the goals of what Voy is, because that information is out there and you can hang your head on that. And I'll answer just the second question, like what type of investors are good investors. The main kind of investors are the ones that don't hurt things. Like those are the ones you don't want to find in. And there's a lot of investors that are out there that are that have a bad reputation of like taking the tokens and dumping them, or doing a lot of like nefarious things with them, or so you stay away from them. Not all money is good money. You need to make sure that you really do your due diligence to find people that are out there and they believe in the mission. So one of the things I always talk to my investors is I make sure that they understand what Voy's mission is. The Voy is not a opportunity to make money or whatever. Voy is an opportunity to truly change how blockchain is structured. And they have to believe, and they have to believe in the mission first. So mission is extremely important. And that is actually, so that's what it goes for. And being connected in the community is very important as well. Like you said, Arrington has been extremely supportive so far, making sure they're connecting to this right people. But it doesn't really only come from VCs. I've personally been in crypto now full time since early 2017. So going on 7 years full time. So I have a lot of actually connections in a lot of different places. So I've been able to lead on that as well. So we don't only need VCs for those things. So Bill, you can go for it.
Thanks. Couple parts to your question, Wilder, that I think are important for community understanding, to understand kind of the fuller picture. So the first thing is, as Chris touched on, the foundation has already approved the 3-to-1 ratio favoring community in totality. So 75 to 25. And within that 25, there can be some, but not all, will be external investor allocation. So, for example, we have to have employee incentives. We have to have founder incentives. We have to have a treasury for long term for our 20-year journey. So what I would care about if I were in a community's shoes right now is, not just the total baskets, but the sequencing and the timing of the release schedule and as to when the VCs come in. And there's no hard approval commitment by the foundation yet because it hasn't been asked to do so. But from our perspective, we didn't get into this to create a scenario where it's a VC controlled chain and there's perpetual dumping, even though by economic rule, it's impossible for the forever duration. But we also don't want it on the early side where people are like, this is just the same thing all over again. So, from our perspective, we're striving to work with the foundation that those external investors that provide the funding to do the types of things that need to be done to promote the chain. You have marketing requirements, you have legal expenses, you have a variety of things that they don't get funded from token sales on centralized exchanges because centralized exchanges have registration fees. There's all sorts of things where it's chicken and egg a bit, where you do need some capital. But our fundraising methodology is very, very lean by comparison to what you've seen with the other chains that are household names. So with that being said, we do not expect that the full 25% would ever be external investment. And it's our goal to get approvals from those investors to show the baskets. How much is external investment? How much is core team allocations to show who has what and how long. There are legal restrictions that differ between core team allocations and external investment allocations. So, for example, block reward eligibility is different between the different camps. So there are certain things that will be advantageous to the community that you actually would prefer that external investors would have the tokens as opposed to the core team because they're restricted from certain allocations for at least 366 days. So all that being said, legal mumbo jumbo, the bottom line is we want to be as transparent as we can be. We overtly ask our purchasers that when they get assigned SAFT with the token issuer, which we don't control in any regard, that's a third-party entity controlled by a BVI third-party shareholder and third-party director. We want approvals to be able to say, at a minimum, the totality of external investment is the following as of right now, and contrast that against, okay, there's already been an approval of 3%, 5%, 7.5%, whatever the case may be as to what the community basket is at the same time for the same duration. So we want total visibility to show community is either stacked equal or greater than external investment. And by nature, because of the allocations that have been discussed, within a year, that will not stay side by side. It's impossible. It's a 75 to 25, and it's actually a subset of the 25 where there'll be a differentiation by community development. Now, if third parties, VCs, whomever decide to make an economic play on open markets, that is what it is. If they buy a bunch of tokens, they buy a bunch of tokens. So to put a finer point to it, what has been approved so far? So 75%, 25% is approved by the foundation. The community now has comfort that this core team is not going to, run a process to flip that and say, oh wait, we've rethought it and we gave too much away. We want to change that. A third-party foundation has now decided and published an authorization that 75%, so 7.5 billion tokens, are allocated to community and development on the Void chain. 25% is set aside for those that are cultivating the network and our third-party purchasers, our employees, et cetera, for programs that are candidly private transactions that will be facilitated through that independent party. But to be clear, we very much want to be able to show you who has what within those baskets. And sometimes it's going to be uncomfortable. People are going to say, oh my God, certain parties have a lot of tokens all at once. But if you look at the aggregates, we want it to be fair, reasonable, to not have too much control of the network. So we're mindful of not selling to only one party, and not, giving such a large stack. So it goes into the next question you had, which is what's a good investor? First and foremost, to be blunt, it's easy to convince a VC right now where they're not going to have control of 30, 45% of the overall token supply at the outset. So a good investor for us is one that is okay with having a very exceedingly small percentage of the overall token supply, and not a lot of VCs are in the business of having community control of the overall token supply. So the exact conversations that we're having with you, we have with external parties that may purchase from Void Prime Inc. And a lot of them say, we're not interested because we won't have enough token control, we won't have enough market share. We're not interested in having 0.3% of the overall market share, which you and I would say that's a ton of tokens, but to them, they're like, that doesn't move the needle for us. So the first starting point is we need venture capital firms that are willing to participate in a chain that is a social experiment of having more community control, where they don't control all the board seats, they don't control all the foundation, they don't control anything, they just have some tokens. And they have tokens that are lesser than overall community control. So that's the first good investor as far as I'm concerned. The second good investor is one that can give us the inroads to infrastructure that isn't just handed to you very easily, unfortunately. So, things like our external marketing team came through a recommendation from one of our token purchasers that we are in process of finalizing, and that the marketing team's been great so far. And that doesn't fall from the sky. That's from previous experience. They've seen what they can do. They know what our project looks like. So that goes beyond the fundraising side of it. It's that connection. I personally love purchasers that are purely passive and want this community and want this core team to run with this and see what happens in a couple of years. So you want a mix of those, some, connector investors, and some that are just like, hey, I just want to have an early opportunity to get hold of some of these tokens. And so it's a long-winded answer to, we've got 75-25. It's our goal to have a clear understanding by this community that you are stacking well or better than the external, purchasers at any given moment in time. And we can't commit that it's always going to be exactly the same, but we do know there's going to be a separation really, really fast, given that the early incentives program is, 1.5 billion tokens within the first 18 months. So, the foundation approves that, you'll get even more comfort. So that's, our analysis is there should be huge amounts of push in the first 18 months to cultivate the chain, but we need the foundation to review that and approve that. So does that answer your question, Wilder?
Yes, it was very thorough. Thank you. Super exciting. And thanks for having the space. I had a great time. And Henrik, sorry for slowing you down there. I'm excited to hear the network updates. And thank you, Chris and Bill, once again. Great to hear. Very excited.
My pleasure, Wilder. All right. Henrik, all you.
Yeah, thank you. So my updates will not be as exciting. I can say over the last week or so, I've been working with Shelly, Samian, Shiva on airdrops and snapshots, and we're moving forward on the staking side. I've also been doing infrastructure, again, not too exciting for anyone, but just allows us to better control some of the websites that we're planning on spinning up. And then say we are in process of getting some icons and prepping a ledger app. It does require us to be on an exchange before we actually can release, and I'm sure it's a long process, but it's definitely on the radar and something we're thinking about. And that's about it.
That's not exciting enough, Henrik. So you're, I know one of the things that you're actually working in is actually potentially looking at and actually having partnership with multiple auditors. What kind of value do you see in having existing partnerships with multiple auditors rather than just one?
That's a good question.
Or any at all.
I think really different auditors might have different skill sets, and obviously if you work with one, they have a pipeline. It's work they plan it out, and so if they don't have the capacity, then it might be quick going with another one. So skill, cost, availability, I think really is the key one there.
For sure. One of the things I think we can talk about a little bit more is that because everybody, the foundation announced the airdrop for the phase one and what that will be. Can you talk about like what the flow will be like for an individual to be able to, or it's not, I know it's not in stone yet and it's still being developed, but like what should people expect?
That's a great question. I will point to the guy that on my screen is just below, Benny. I think he's better at explaining the user flows.
Is it working? I have to stop.
It
It's
is.
working. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm recording this time and it seems to be working. Brilliant. Don't know what I did wrong last time. Yeah, in terms of the user flow, I think it's really going to come down to there's going to be a website where people are going to be able to interact with their own personal smart contract. So obviously the development of the smart contract is ongoing. That's going to be wrapped up hopefully before too long, obviously before we actually need it. And it's going to be audited as well. But people are going to come onto their website, connect their wallet using Kibisi's A-wallet, however they want to do it. It's going to bring up their, load up their contract and display to them what is their sort of allocation for that particular airdrop. We're thinking about splitting it across the two different airdrops so that people have the capacity to configure, what duration they want to lock up across the two. That's a little bit more fluid right now, but we'll just talk about just the phase one for now, just to make things simple. But ultimately, they'll be able to see exactly what their initial allocation is going to be. They're then going to have the option to choose what the lockup period is going to be. This is going to be anywhere from 0 to 5. If somebody does not connect to the website and interact and configure their contract in any way, it will just default to 0 years. But all that means is that everyone is going to have the same vesting period of 12 months anyway. So it just means that it's just going to continue to vest even if they didn't interact, and they can come and withdraw them as and when they can. And it's really going to be that. There's going to be a deadline for them to lock in exactly what duration they want to have the lockup for. Obviously, it's going to then be able to tell them exactly what the bonus is going to be depending on the duration, because we know all those numbers. And then at that point, the deadline's going to hit. We're going to drop the tokens into the contract, and then they're going to then also be able to use that contract to stake on a node and start earning block rewards. And obviously, while these tokens are locked up, both the lockup and the initial allocation for whatever the lockup period was and the vesting duration, they're staked, which means that they're going to be able to earn block rewards. And these block rewards are not going to be locked up at all. People can withdraw them freely as they want, but obviously the more tokens you have on the contract, the more likely you are to produce a block. And that's really going to be the flow. It's just going to be very simple, very user-friendly website, and there's just going to be a few different views and toggles between it where people can withdraw from the contract. If there's any available, they can basically deposit more as well if they want. The whole sort of concept of having a view of being able to interact and stake it onto a node, and there'll probably just be a bit of an overview showing them when keys expired, what their balance is, how many block rewards they've earned to date, etc. So it should be very comprehensive and just provide people with the information they need just to show them exactly what they're getting out of things. But I'm looking forward to it going live, actually. I think it'd be very cool for people to see that.
Yeah, I think that's, it is really a cool mechanic. What I want to really hammer through so people understand is that if you do choose to stake for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, you will receive the full amount of that stake that you would receive over that amount of time in your smart contract. That means that you'll be able to stake on a node that full amount. So this means that you'll have your node will have more stake to produce more blocks. And if you look at it, 5 years of stake, that's going to almost double the amount of stake power that your node will have if you do decide to go that direction. So I think it's a really good mechanic that people should really understand, ask questions about, and think about which direction they'd want to go.
Yeah, I think with the 5-year lockup, you essentially do just outright double your initial allocation. And then with a lot of assumptions, you could maybe achieve a similar doubling with the block rewards. But again, nobody can predict that because there's so many variables at play when it does come to the block rewards.
Thank you, Benny and Henrik, for explaining that. I think that's super exciting stuff, and you're working with the community to build that all together. Shout out to Shelly and Jay for participating so far, and there's a couple other developers that are coming in to work on it as well. So community really pulling their own weight there for sure. But back to you, Shanti. What step are we on? I think it's the last one, right?
Yes, we are over time, but can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Now it's just if anyone has any questions, they can come up. Anything they want to discuss, it is a community roundtable, so we want to give people an opportunity to speak. But this is all of the updates for the core team and most of the major activities from our end.
Hope you enjoyed the update. So yes, you come up, ask questions about what we update, or if you want to bring anything to yourself that we can discuss, let's do that. Taco, I know that you had a few thoughts recently. If you want to come up and talk about it, we're happy to. Or anybody else?
Yes, Taco.
Welcome, Taco. Can't hear you yet.
Can you guys hear me now?
Oh. Can now.
Nice. I got to do the push to talk deal. It works. So we're at the
Wonderful.
restroom. Things ready for the day. I'm super excited. Everything I've heard today is super awesome. Gosh, how lucky are we, that we made it this far? I mean, honestly, like it was just a dream of yours, Chris, and then now it's a reality.
A lot of blood, sweat, and tears for sure, Taco.
Is there any way, I got a couple things that I want to talk about. Let's see.
Please.
So like after we go to mainnet and all that, do you think that we'll like still have like a figurehead? I know that you're gonna have like the Voy foundation and all that, and that's already there, but it would still be nice, like Elgren has Silvio, to go out there and kind of talk about Algo every now and then, and he doesn't really do, I wouldn't say a very good job of that. I mean, he doesn't really have to, it's not his job to do that, but it'd be nice to have like a figurehead for Voy. I mean, is there any idea what that's gonna be like or whatever?
Yeah, so there's a couple things. Number one, as far as figurehead, I think there's a couple things there. Like number one, we want to make sure, and the foundation should be announcing at least a high level overview of what governance looks like on Voy. What does it mean to actually, who's making decisions, how are decisions made, what are the checks and balances, all of that stuff. So there's the figurehead of like, the face of Voy, and then there's actually decision making, and I think they're two different things. As far as actually the face of Voy, like Taco, I'm not fucking going nowhere.
Yeah, I was hoping that it was going to be you, like going out there championing Voy, doing different conferences and stuff, talking about the greatness of Voy, and you know what I mean? That's what I was hoping.
Yeah, so like my plan, like one of like my main duties is to actually go talk, evangelize. One of the things that I do believe, though, is that yes, I can do that, but it's actually much more important to establish a structure of multiple evangelizers, where I wouldn't be the only one, because would be only one of me. But if we can figure out a way to actually get charismatic people that understand the mission, understand what the message actually is, the idea would be there's lots of people that primarily can actually focus and can be incentivized to do things like that. Because it should be just more than just one person. A lot of the stuff that I talk about is, yes, it has, like, I talk about Voy, but the truth is like a lot of stuff, the Voy messaging and the Voy mission is actually just fundamental blockchain evangelizing, is that like what blockchain fundamentally should be. It should be owned by the people putting in value. Yes, like Voy exists because of this, but the truth is all blockchain should be this way. The values of what type of value does blockchain bring to the world? It lowers the cost of verification. Pushing that and making people know that is the type of things to be built on top of blockchain is something that actually should be evangelized as well. So yes, I will be out there. I will be banging the drum, but at the same time, I plan on actually establishing and working with multiple people to also do the same thing.
Awesome. The next thing I kind of want to ask is, I know you've been super transparent with like the whole process of Void, like more so than probably any other blockchain out there up to date. But I want to ask you, like, how much of your own personal wealth have you put into this, trying to build up Void?
I mean, like I'm not gonna put like a specific number on it, but like the truth is that I am putting a lot of effort and resources into making the vision of what I see blockchain should be into the world. I mean, the amount of time, effort, money, like it's to the point now where I'm doing this because I believe blockchain can actually change the world. I truly, truly do. I think it's one of the only technologies that has actually been invented in my lifetime that can actually make the world a better place for everybody. And what I mean by that is, like, of course, the technology is great, you know, the internet, all of that stuff, but all of the technology so far has actually made the world a smaller and smaller place, and which has made it easier for the few to become rich and then really kind of erode the middle class. I believe blockchain is one of the only technologies that has the ability to kind of rebalance things, to make it so that there isn't the small handful of people getting rich, but it's the people owning their own data, their own value, owning their own value rather than being the product itself. And I believe that this is important for mankind. This is not a side project to me. This is something that I truly believe needs to be in the world to actually make the world a better place. So yeah, I put a lot of resources and effort into it, but that's because I really want to see the world be better.
What do you want your legacy to be, you know, when you're gone? Like, what do you hope?
This is what I always say. I'm sure people will make fun of me for saying it. In 100 years, or 100 years after I die, I want somebody to actually make a rock opera about my life. That I have actually done enough in the world to actually make the world a better place enough that somebody cares in 100 years to write a rock opera about it. That's what I want.
Nice. What is a rock opera? Forgive me, please.
I mean, a rock opera is think of it like Hamilton, but like rock instead of rap.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. That sounds awesome. I think if you keep going the way you're going, Chris, and you'll get there. But that's not up to you, right? That's up to people to decide.
The thing that I promise is I will put my 100% in it until I die. So if that's not enough, then it's not enough. But it's not going to be because I don't try. I mean, this is the whole thing with Voy. Like Taco, do you realize how many people out there have told me how crazy I am before Voy started?
I heard all the fucking noise, dude.
And how
I looked the other way.
Happen.
Yeah. And I looked the other way. Not only did I not look the other way, I hit these people head on. And I'm like, listen, Voy isn't Chris Swinner's, like, it's his baby, but listen, he's not going to be running the show. Like, he just came up with this brilliant idea to have a community-focused blockchain, and then the community is going to be the ones in charge. So, like, Chris isn't in charge. Like, so people need to understand that no matter if they like you or not, which they should like you, but if they don't, it doesn't matter, because the blockchain that you're building is probably going to be one of the best blockchains to date.
I hope so. I mean, at the end of the day, all the people that said that, you know, launching a blockchain is hard, it's next to impossible, are right. Like, it is hard. It is extremely, extremely hard. But my belief has always been, just because something is hard doesn't mean you don't do it. And it's actually quite the opposite. Just because something is hard, it's actually more reason to try. Trying to actually do Voy and failing is much more important to me than not trying to do Voy when I see there is actually a hole in the world and there needs to be something better. So that's why
that's what I'm all about, Chris. I've found problems on Algorand, and I found developers to fix them. And then I find more problems, and then I find people to fix them. And that's what you're doing. You found a problem with the layer one AVM that like you found the tokenomics weren't fair and like you could do it better, and you did, and you're doing it, and it's incredible. And you don't get enough pats on the back. I mean, you know, your team that you assembled is second to none.
I wouldn't say that's, we're doing something better per se. We're definitely doing something different. At the end of the day, we don't know the right path for blockchain being mainstream, but trying a path that is different than other people increases the chances of mainstream being, or blockchain being mainstream, and that's important. So,
I mean, if it fails, then at least 1,000 people are going to be to blame because this is a community chain. Like honestly, like it's us community members. Pick up a shovel, I say, you know, and start doing what you can. Like host spaces or write an article or build something or, you know, there's so much things that people can do. Every single one of us are here and we can all do something. So pick up a
and they're
shovel
already
and do
doing
the
it.
work,
Taco.
you know? Yeah,
They're
I know
already doing it. The
everybody's doing
community
it, but we got to do even
amazing.
more. We got to keep her up, keep the momentum. We're fucking rocking. It's so exciting.
I know. Thank you, Taco. Do you have any other
Thank you.
questions?
Sorry for rambling. I'm long-winded.
No problem. Any other questions about anything?
No, I don't have any more questions. I mean, obviously, I could keep going and going, but I think we should give somebody else a chance.
Sounds good. We could probably wrap it up. Just a reminder, there's going to be spaces every night. Ice Age is tonight, and then Haroof is tomorrow. Rach is Friday, and then Monday is Haroof, and Tuesday is Taco and Bagman, right?
And Sunday is Gary.
That's correct.
And Sunday's who?
I'll paste Gary. I'll paste the agenda
Gary.
in the chat again.
Awesome. So jump in the spaces, invite your friends. Let's really grow this pie. All right. Well, back to you, Shanti. Wrap it up. You've been taking too long.
Thanks,
A little
everyone.
long-winded there, aren't you, Shanti?
Thanks, everyone, for your time. And we hope to see you next week. Thanks for also staying overtime for us. Have a great week, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.